see it. Oh, there, I see it. Okay, awesome. Welcome, everyone. Oh my gosh, we're so excited for everyone to be here. And if you're not Heidi, please mute your line. That would be awesome.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. We're excited to be here. Week 3 Summer Success Series. I feel like we're getting some good traction within the groups. I've heard of a lot of people connecting with their partner. If you haven't, or if you've had trouble connecting with your partner, be sure to reach out to Lindsay or me. We can help. We've helped troubleshoot a couple of them, just finding the other person on Facebook or whatever that is. So please let us know. Those accountability partners, they're built in for you during this time, and just take advantage. So I've already heard of some great conversations though. So last week we talked about inviting people to take a look, which is truly, as we said, a secret sauce, or not a secret sauce, one of the cornerstones, right? Today, I would say, is another equally as important, if not more important, cornerstone, and I'm sure Heidi will explain why. There are statistics all around follow-up, so I'm not going to steal any of her thunder, but I will welcome and introduce our speaker tonight, who is a dear friend of mine. Her name is Heidi Fish. In my thing, she's in the top left corner, and she is a mom of 2, a loving wife to her husband Brian, who is on. She is 3-star Golden Circle, 2-star Crystal Executive, recently 2-star Crystal Executive. She popped her second personally enrolled executive in the past few weeks. Start 1000. She loves to, I can tell you, she loves fitness. She loves to dance. She is, she's also ventured into Instagram TV, IGTV lately. So if you haven't checked out IGTV, go check out her. She's adding tons of value that way, and she's just a truly authentic leader. So I'm really pumped for you guys to learn from her tonight. Heidi, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Allison. I'm going to share my screen quick with you guys. Follow suit with this fun pineapple. I've never done like a Google presentation before, so hopefully I do this all properly. Okay, is it good? We good? All right, so follow up. Like Allison said, so the first week, I'm gonna open my chat really quick so that I think I can open my chat. Maybe not. Okay, I guess I can't see the chat. So
if I see any specific questions, I'll just jump in and tell you.
Perfect, thank you. So the first week, Gretchen taught us how to create interest on all platforms, on social media and in person. And then last week, Barbie taught us how to take that interest and ask people to take a look. And this week, I'm going to talk about follow-up and the importance of follow-up. But first, a little humor. I love these memes, especially the office one, answer me, because if you've been doing your follow-ups, you know that ghosting is a very common thing. So know that if you feel like you're reaching out 100 times or you're not getting answers, it's normal, it's not you. And so we'll talk about a lot of those things tonight. All right, so why is follow-up so important? I'm not gonna read this sales statistic, you can read that for yourself. But I want you to think of your favorite brand or traditional business. So think of, I'll just use Lululemon, for example. When you went shopping there for the first time, was that the first time you'd ever heard of Lulu? Did you just stumble across this store and you're like, oh my gosh, it's this amazing clothing store? Or after you shopped there for the first time, did you never hear from the store again? Was it just totally ghosted, or did you start getting emails and stuff in the mail and catalogs, right? So all these traditional business models understand the power of follow-up, both to make the sale and then also once you've become a customer, to keep you a happy customer. So the same thing applies for us in our network marketing business. Fortune is in the follow-up, and tied into that follow-up is having a list. If you don't have a list, you don't know who to follow up with. And it might seem easy when you have 10 people, but when you start getting hundreds of people, you need to have a system in order to not lose people in the cracks. And 80% of the sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So if you've reached out to your mom and your 2 besties and you haven't enrolled anyone yet, you need to keep asking. Sometimes it's not going to be people's time yet for years. And after being in this business for 5 years, that's what I really realized is, there are people that are joining me now that I first talked to, 4.5 years ago. And then the key to follow-up is loving, consistent persistence. And that's how you'll have success. So we will dive more into that. All right, how to follow up with people. Always be personable and connect. Don't be weird. I'm going to give you guys my most amazing example of that in a second. So last week we talked about asking people to take a look. So when you first take a look, ask someone to take a look, don't expect to hit that home run on that first ask. It's going to take multiple asks, inviting them to events, inviting them to take a look at things, asking them to jump on 3-way calls. There's going to be these steps you're going to get from base to base. You're not going to hit a home run on that first ask. How to follow up with people, try different platforms. If you've been, sending messages on Facebook and they're not responding to you, try switching over to Instagram. I found that to be very effective. Sometimes people just aren't on a certain platform. I find increasingly I'm getting more and more ghosting on Facebook. So definitely make sure that you're changing up platforms if you're not hearing from people. Vary your message. We're going to go through lots of examples tonight. I know those tangible things that you can read and implement are important. But don't always be just asking them about Isagenix. Ask them about their life. Ask them about things on their page. Again, we'll go through more examples. Vary the type of message. I know some people have a ton of luck with voice messages. They can hear your passion and your enthusiasm and they can't misinterpret a message. I don't always get the most response from that. Sometimes it's super effective, but not always for me personally, but some people it's their cup of tea. So try different things. I absolutely love sending a Snapchat video. I don't always send it through Snapchat. Sometimes I'll record in Snapchat and send a video, especially for people's birthdays. I have a very high response rate for that and it just helps engage and talk to them. Always make sure you're checking out their pages first. There was one time where I almost reached out to someone and followed up on if they're ready to get started, and they had just had a death in the family 2 days before that. So it's super important to check out their Instagram or their Facebook and see what's going on in their life so that you can have a relevant conversation with them and that you're not going to be kind of like the annoying network marketer that's asking them, if they're ready to get started when they've just had a life event. You do need to be asking for the sale at some point. I look at it as though there are kind of seasons where you're going to be building more relationships than doing a lot of strong asks. And then you'll get to a point where it's okay, you've been really moving around the bases and now it's time to ask for that sale. So make sure you're not getting in the trap with follow-ups that you're just always connecting and never asking them to take a look at a tool or asking them for the sale. And even if you get a hard no, keep maintaining the relationship, and especially make sure if they give you the hard no that you respond to them right away. Make sure you respond to that message. The worst is when someone takes the time to give you the no and you don't write back to them. So make sure you're maintaining that relationship. And then with all follow-ups, you're gonna get objections. You're gonna have people tell you things that are going on in their life, and make sure to be open and empathetic and use the feel, felt, found method. I'm not gonna go into that. You can Google it if you want more information on that. All right, so this is my example of what not to do. I know it says, hi, Heidi, but the person messaging me was actually Heidi. So this was her first message to me, and I literally had not talked to her in 4 years. And she said, hey, I'm going out on a limb and ask you if you and your husband ever heard of Rainbow Products. She did not use my name. She didn't even ask me how I was doing, and she didn't ask me anything personal about my life. So I wrote back and said, hi, Heidi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. I was kind of being a little smart. No, I have not heard of Rainbow Products. I'm great. I was wondering if you wanted to learn more about it, but I see that you don't live in Wausau anymore, LOL, so it doesn't really help me out. I'm like, nope, good luck. So it was all about her, and as soon as I couldn't ask her for the sale, or she couldn't get a sale from me, she just dropped the conversation, where she could have said, oh, I realize you're not in Wausau, but do you know anyone? Asking for that referral. So I just think this is a good example of some things not to do. All right, and so what should you do? There are endless ways of following up, and it's going to be this ebb and flow of asking about Isagenix and talking about things and talking about not Isagenix related things. So these examples are all going to come up at different times and in different conversations, and you really have to be open to reading the person and where the conversation is to know what's next. Make sure you're not saying, hey, there's a special every 30 days for 8 months in a row with no response. Okay, so this first one is if you have been following up with someone and they gave you no in the past, but you wanted to check in and see how they're doing. I know Isogenics wasn't for you in the past, but life can change, so I wanted to check in. And then I asked them for what their current challenge or struggle is, making it about them, not just, I wanted to see if you're ready to buy a product from me. And I gave an example, like it kind of ties into that feel, felt, found. I'm giving them permission to share with me by sharing one of my own struggles. In the next one, I'm asking, would you be open? I feel like that's a super powerful phrase to use in follow-ups a lot. Just asking them if they would be open to taking a look. Because I think most people don't want to say, no, I'm not even open to taking a look. They may not be ready to make a purchase, but they're going to be open enough to take a look. This next one was from Jessica Rayner. It's a pretty bold message, and she does them a lot of her voice so they can hear her passion. Hey, were you serious about that goal? And getting back to their why and just reminding them, were you serious about that? That was her phrase that she finds really helpful in following up with people that have maybe ghosted for a while. The other key thing about that third example is that there's 2 times as an option for a call rather than what works for you. It makes it sound like you're available and you have all the time in the world, and then it just leaves it very open-ended, versus if you give them 2 choices to pick from, they're more likely to pick a choice, and it shows them that you have limited time and that your time is valuable. I love this next one, especially when you've been in this business for a longer time or right after celebration. This is an amazing time to use this message. I use any new product or video that they've released to follow up with people and say, hey, I know you weren't interested in Isogenics before, but this product came out and I think you'd really love it. The other thing about that example is that I use humor. Like if you guys read it, I literally have basically sent out this exact same message, because like digestive issues are kind of an awkward thing to talk about. So make it funny, and if that's relevant for you. But just bringing humor to your messages and keeping them light. I know a girl on our team always, when she would send messages, she'd be like, hey, do you remember the time when we blah, blah, she would bring up fun memories that she and that person had together as a way to connect and make it personal. A few more examples or ideas on how to do follow-ups. Give a genuine compliment. Don't let it just be like, oh, I really like your shirt today. But if they've been posting things that are really inspirational, or they've been more vulnerable in their posts, or they've played a really important role in your life and you've never really told them how valuable they are to you and the impact they've had on your life, don't talk about Isogenics, just give them a genuine compliment. And even if they're not open or ready for Isogenics right now, that will stick with them. And when they are ready, you're going to be the one they go to because you've poured into them and made them feel good about themselves. Ask a question. I just did this today. I went to a girl's page to follow up with her, and there was a ton of stuff about horses, and I'm looking for a place to take the girls horseback riding this summer. So I didn't ask her about Isogenics, and I just said, hey, looks like you have a passion for horses. I'm looking for a place to go. Do you have anywhere that you recommend? It's reaching out, it's making them the experts, it's asking them to help you. I just think there's a lot of edification and positive things that can come out of asking them a question and asking them to help you with something. Another great time to follow up is whenever there's specials, like this week, both with the Amped products and then the enrollment special as well. And then I also just if, I've been asking people and, I'm just at any point in the conversation, it's great to just keep it super simple and say, hey, we haven't caught up. Let's go grab coffee sometime soon if you're local, or a virtual wine date. I have done those too. And then another idea for follow-ups, if they ask a question or there's a certain post or topic on their page, rather than commenting publicly, send them a private message and answer their question or add value. It just allows you to connect with them on a deeper conversation than posting publicly. You're less likely to have a conversation with them. All right, so how often to follow up? I know this can be a very delicate balance because you want to follow up often enough, but you don't want to be annoying. Everyone has a little bit different philosophy. I think you have to find both your kind of routine and rhythm, and also read the person too and what kind of response they previously had. So let's say that they've agreed to look at a tool and you sent them the video and you have not heard from them. I would personally follow up within 24 to 48 hours. And then if you don't hear from them, I would follow up a third time about 2 days later. And I let them off the hook so it doesn't become this awkward thing like, oh my gosh, Heidi's asked me a third time now and I feel so bad because I haven't watched it. So in that third follow-up, I say, hey, I know you must have gotten busy. I'll circle back in a couple weeks. But if you find time in the meantime, please reach out. Because then it lets them know that I'm following up again, but it also gives them permission to reach out if they have time. And then I would follow through with that and follow up 2 weeks later. And then if I still don't hear from them, then I bump it out, usually a couple months at that point. And that next follow-up will be not Isagenix related. I will often use the line like, please let me know if I'm bothering you. Like, I don't want to be a nuisance, but I think you'll really love this, or you were interested before, and so I want to make sure that you're informed. And sometimes I'll say to people like, I'll just keep sending you like new updates and specials until you tell me to stop. So ghosters, circling back to the office meme, I think persistence is super important. I have many examples where I've literally sent people like 5, 7 messages with no response. And again, they're not all, direct about Isagenix, but suddenly they'll like send me a message and say, oh my gosh, like I'm never on Facebook. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. Like I have so many examples of that. But conversely, I've now been in it long enough where you have to at a point kind of assess those people that are ghosting you and think, do I want this person in my business? They're obviously not very responsive. And sometimes I feel like those people that you are consistently following up with in the beginning, you've realized later that they're just kind of a warm body and they're not necessarily the person that you want in your business. So kind of, have that persistence, but be willing to like reflect every once in a while and say, okay, is this person still, do I still want to have them on my list? And I'll go over list formats in a little bit, but one thing that I will do with those people is that I keep them on my list. I don't like throw them away. They're still on my list. So that if they ever do reach out to me, I still have them there. But it's so funny how energy works, because so often, I will literally, I put an NA in my spreadsheet. I will NA a person and then I will hear from them within weeks later, like, okay, I'm ready to do it. So sometimes you just have to like let them go, like release them, and then that's when they'll come back to you. And then follow up when there's specials or you have another event. If they say they aren't interested in the event or they can't attend because this or that, ask them permission to follow up again. Then that way it's not weird when you invite them. And they'll say like, no, I'm not really interested, or yeah, that'd be great, keep me posted. So I think just having that dialogue, asking them, what's the best way to follow up with them? Is it okay to follow up with them? And let me know if I'm bothering you. Just really giving them the permission to have that dialogue so it doesn't just feel like you're bombarding them all the time without asking them permission. All right, how to manage follow-ups. This is probably my favorite part. I like organization, and after 5 years, I have really extensive spreadsheets. So you may have a small list right now, but it's going to grow, and you're going to want to find what format or system works for you to keep track of those follow-ups, because again, it's so important to keep track of those. And it may evolve over time. I'm still a paper calendar person, but my list got so big that I couldn't do a paper format. I had to have it be electronic, and I love electronic and doing it in Google so that it can be with me wherever I'm at. So Google Sheets, once I'm done with this slide, I will get out of my slideshow and I will show you guys how I use my Google Sheets to do my follow-ups. Some of you might think I'm crazy, but I'll show you. Maybe it'll work for one of you. The calendar method. So a lot of people, especially if you've got the Isagenix planner, there's spots for follow-ups on the bottom to write your 333. And let's say today you ask someone initially to take a look and you want to remember in 2 days to follow up with them and see if they watched it. Then you would, go forward in your calendar and write their name down so that you don't forget. So just like forward putting people in your calendar to make sure that you don't lose them. Index cards. Some people have kind of the recipe card mentality and they flip through them, and that works for them. You can write notes on there. If someone uses the index cards and can tell me how you make sure that you're following up, I don't know if you write a date on there and then go through them. I just know that works really well for some people. And then ISA tools to go. To me, this is more friendly if you have a lot of phone number contacts versus social media contacts. I personally have not used ICE's tools to go for managing my follow-ups just because I had a set routine for myself and it didn't make sense to transfer everyone, but it is a neat function that you can mark them as hot or cold. So I'm going to exit and show you guys my spreadsheet. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I love my examples. Can you guys see this okay? Okay, so these are my prospects: Jim Coover, Kathy Coover, Eric Coover, PETA, and Mr. Wonderful. Okay, so here are my columns. So this far one is the last invite. So what was the last thing I asked them to take a look at? It just kind of is a quick screenshot for me to know what was that last ask. You know, so if I asked them, you know, to a Super Saturday and they said no, maybe the next time I ask them for lunch. It just is it's a good reference point for me. Their name, obviously. I love having the city in here because that way if you're going to Nashville, you can sort your list and see who's in Nashville. You know, it's a great way. Or if you know of Super Saturday coming up in Flagstaff, you can sort your list and contact all your people in that city. So I love having that function. If I don't know what city they're in, I will put the state. So sometimes, like if I'm going to Nashville, I'll look at Nashville and then make sure I don't have any Tennessees listed also. Last follow-up date, that's the last time I reached out to them and contacted them. This is the number of times I followed up with them. I literally have people, you guys, on my spreadsheet that I have reached out to over 30 times. And I do that kind of as a reminder to me, like, you know, I will find that there's those people that I'm a little intimidated, and then I'll look and be like, oh, I've only talked to them like 2 or 3 times. I've got a ways to go, right, before there's the potential of the yes. So it's just a little bit of a way to give you that visual picture, like, okay, I have like maybe when some of these 35s, I either need to decide that they shouldn't be on my list anymore, or maybe they are one of those people where like, I'm determined that they'll be in my business and I'm going to continue loving on them. For me, some of these follow-ups are still non-isogenics related. I include just anytime I'm reaching out to them. And then the next follow-up, so as you can see, I put a formula in here. It was in the slideshow. I do equal, and then whatever the last follow-up date cell was, plus however many days I want to follow up. So if I had just sent Jim a video and I want to follow up with him in 2 days, it would be equals D2 plus 2. And then when I'm done doing my contacts for the day, I just sort the sheet A to Z, and now I have all my contacts dated for me. I find that method like super helpful for me. It kind of goes along with when I used to handle claims. That's how our system was, and this is just my very rudimentary spreadsheet version of that, but it's very helpful for me. This is if they're added to our Facebook group or not. Again, this is a really helpful sort if you're doing a challenge in your group. As we know, sometimes Facebook groups aren't being seen as much as they used to, so I'll sort by that group and send them a pretty basic copy-paste message just to save time and say, hey, I don't know if you saw in the group, but we've got this really fun challenge coming up. I hope you'll participate. So just another great way to sort. And then these are my notes. You know, just anything that's relevant about that person that I want to make sure I remember next time. And then I also highlight the people in green if they're kind of a hot enrollment, that they're likely to get started in the next couple months, or have expressed strong interest in getting started. So that's how I do it. Again, take what works for you. Maybe you do something similar, but you only have like 2 of the columns. Maybe you don't use this at all. It's just to give you an idea and just to emphasize the importance of treating it like a business and having some system that works for you so that you're not losing people. All right. Let's go back to this. Oh, all right. Loading. Okay, good timing. 4 minutes left. Okay, some last thoughts and tips. This is really hard, I know, but try to stay unattached to the outcome. And this will, like, your muscle of being unattached will get better and better over time. There will still be those ones where they give you a no and it stings a little bit. I just had one a couple months ago and it wasn't even like a negative no. I just think I had this high expectation that she would be interested. And then she was like, was one of the Whole Foods people, and I just kind of like took it personally. You know, and it's just, you just get over it faster the longer you do it. And then that's another thing to keep in mind with when you don't hear from people right away. Like, just remember that this is super important for you. Like, you realize the gift of this, whether it's the physical or financial piece, but they don't see that yet. And think about, I don't know if you can remember, those of you that are newer might remember this, but before I was in Isogenics, I was terrible at responding to messages. Like, I hardly ever responded to them. I would lose them all the time. Like, it's just not, it wasn't on my radar. It wasn't important to me. So just keep that in mind when people aren't responding to you timely or they're ghosting you. Like, it may be that they were in the middle of the grocery store with 3 screaming kids and looked at your message and were like, oh, that would be really awesome. And then all of a sudden 4 weeks has gone by and they totally forgot about it. I don't know where this originally came from. I heard Hayden say it, but people are not numbers, but this is a numbers game. You know, going back to that first statistic, you have to keep following up 5 to 12 times. And the more people you're following up with, the more enrollments you're going to have. Again, reiterating that asking them for guidance, the person that you're reaching out to, on the best way to follow up, whether that's the platform, the frequency, whether you can keep inviting them, you know, just really have that open dialogue with them. It feels like you care more about them, which you should really care more about them than the sale. Posture is really important. I think there is this fine line that you want to give people permission to be kind of off the hook. Like, it's okay if it's not for you. You know, you don't want it to feel like threatened that you're like shoving it down their throat. But you also don't want to like send a voice message that's like, hey, I thought maybe you kind of want to take a look at this, but it's totally okay if you don't. I really understand. Like, I get it if it's not for you. Like, you got to have some posture and belief that this is going to positively impact their life, but also have that compassion when they're, you know, busy and like, hey, I totally get that you weren't available. No big deal. Don't be annoying. And the best way to do that is to add value. Like, truly, you know, going back to those compliments and asking questions and responding to the Facebook posts. If you're just constantly asking them about Isogenics, that's when you're going to get annoying. But if you're continually adding value to their life at the same time, that's when you're going to have the most effective relationship and dialogue. Again, if they say no or they ghost you, still maintain the relationship. Don't make it weird. And then reach out with a specific reason. Don't just say, hey, how's it going? I wanted to check in. Because then it's this like weird, like, why are you checking in? Like, do you want to know if I want to buy that weird shake stuff? Like, you know, so tell them exactly why you're reaching out, whether it is to ask them how their vacation was, or you are following up on whether they want to come to the next event. Be clear and don't have it be a super broad, vague check-in. And lastly, I have a challenge for you guys. All right, so I'll let you guys all write this down. So I want you guys to post in your business group, whatever's most relevant, whatever group you want that to be, and post 3 things. The first is, what is your tracking method? If you have a different one outside of the ones that I suggested, we'd love to know about it, because that might be the perfect system for someone else. Or the one that you're committed to starting. Maybe you don't have a list and this is really what you need to take your business to the next level. So what is that platform for you? Number 2, how are you going to stay consistent over the summer? I can't wait to hear people's ideas on this, because I truly struggled with this last summer. How are you going to stay consistent in asking people to take a look and following up with those that you've already asked? And then the third one, if you have a favorite follow-up message that you like to use, we'd love to have more ideas generated in our group so that we can all learn and borrow from each other, because having more ideas just gives you more options on ways to connect and add value to people. So I have not looked at the chat, but 9:31.
You are so efficient and so good, and I feel like people got so much value. You just read through the chat and take it in, Heidi, because people got so much from you. So good. And I will have, in case people didn't see it, Gretchen, how many times did Holly follow up with you?
It was like over 30 for sure. For sure.
No way.
And what did she do really well? Like, what's one thing she did really well through the whole process?
She was my running partner at 5 a.m. for like 8 months. And she never missed, and she showed up every morning I asked her to run with me. And she doesn't even run, I don't think. Like, I don't think that's her favorite sport. Like, I literally think she was like, okay, this is what I gotta do.
And And I remember you saying that she was so like just positive. She'd be like, okay, I could get him, like she didn't get like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I made her look up ingredients for me. I challenged her on every ingredient. I mean, I was like impossible, you guys. And she just was like, okay, well, I'll find an article and maybe we could talk to my friend. Like she used every single one of the tools. So amazing.
Yeah. So you never know who that Gretchen is. Get those spreadsheet numbers to 30. You'll find one of her.
Yeah. And it changed Gretchen's life. Like that's the point. Like it's so awesome to hear. And Heidi, I'm just curious how many people you have on your spreadsheet.
Well, I have several tabs. I have about 1,200 on my Facebook and 400 on my Instagram list. Yeah. My Instagram list I just started in like January.
Awesome. And it doesn't just start from 0, but that's awesome. Just for people to see.
Yeah. And I mean, again, that's been over, 5 years. Like I didn't just wake up one day and have 1,200 people on there.
That's incredible, Heidi. Wow. Show of hands, who's starting a spreadsheet like Heidi? I am. Yeah, girl, I'm still using a notebook. So I'm going to up my game. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Yeah. I mean, I love paper. It just, you can't manage 1,200 people.
Well, you know what happened? I lost my notebook in Peru. So there went everything. So once you have the loss of that, you start using Google spreadsheet. Heidi, that's one point. I took a ton of notes. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Heidi before we jump off?
Brian,
one point to add, Heidi, is Heidi didn't create a list of 1,200 and then start following up with people. The list became 1,200 through each follow-up. So don't be getting busy creating the list. The list gets created through the action.
Yeah. So if you're going from paper to spreadsheet, don't like take a week to enter all those people. Just say like, okay, I'm going to do my 3 follow-ups a day. And as I'm following up with them, I'm going to move them, rather than doing several hundred at a time or whatever it may be.
That is a great reminder, Brian. Thank you. Veronica, do you have a question? Unmute yourself if you do, girl. I see that you raised your hand. I'm not sure what that means at the bottom. Are you there, V?
I'm here. I didn't have a question at all. I'm sorry. This was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks, Veronica.
Well, you learned something new. I can lower your hand, Veronica.
Down.
Well, Heidi, if everyone wants, so we can wrap up and I'll stop the recording, but Heidi, I'd love for you to read through the chat before I close this meeting because it's beautiful and your knowledge is so valued and your wisdom. So thank you, each of you who gave your time tonight to be here with us, especially those on Eastern Standard Time. I know it's late. Only growth and wonderful things can happen from trainings and calls and development like this. So thank you, Allison, very much for being a part of this with us. Thank you, Miss Heidi. Gretchen, your story, I had no idea. That was fabulous. That gives all of us hope. And with that being said, I'm going to stop the recording. You all can head out and on with your evening, but Heidi, take a peek at the chat, okay?
And we'll see you next week with a very important
next week,
topic.
same time, same place.
Bye, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.